Yeah. Mr. Motivation. Look, you know where to come to if you ever get in trouble. 0 to 100 hours, you should get there on the double. Never deviate the plan once you get outside the huddle. Cause whenever life hits you, they expecting you to fumble. This the observation post. We got vision coast to coast. We had tug of war with life and everybody needs some rope. We gon' take over the world until there's nothing left to conquer. I ain't worried about a sucker trying to infiltrate the bunker. It's the
bunker. Yeah, this the bunker. This the bunker. Welcome to the bunker. This the bunker. Yeah, this the bunker. This the bunker. Welcome to the bunker. This the
good people. What's up? Let's go. Happy Wednesday. Yo, listen, it feels like forever. It's been a minute. TikTok, what up? We're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Listen, some of you are high achievers who look like you're holding it together. But privately, you know, something came undone. You worked hard. You have earned things. You have carried family responsibilities and goals and expectation, but life still found a way to interrupt the plan. Tonight is not just a conversation about failure. It's about identity. It's about discipline. It's about purpose and what it means to rebuild when the version of you that used to make sense no longer fits. If you stay with us, you may leave with a new way to see the setback, not as proof that you're finished, but as a place where the comeback can begin. No pressure. Stay with us, all right? You're tapped into the Breakthrough Bunker where we don't avoid pressure. We learn how to grow through it. I'm your host, Murph, a.k.a. Mr. Motivation. Flat out excited to be here. And this space is for people carrying real responsibility, the fathers trying to lead while still becoming, the students and young adults fighting to find purpose, the leaders, educators, and entrepreneurs building through pressure, the high achievers learning that failure does not have to be a period. Sometimes it becomes a comma. Whether you're here live or catching a replay, you're right where you're supposed to be. Tonight's conversation matters because a lot of people know how to chase success, but far fewer know how to rebuild when success does not protect them from the failures, the loss, the disappointments, change. Our guest studies the science of the comeback. He's a performance scientist, professor, author, coach, and host of Becoming UnDone. His work sits at the intersection of identity, discipline, purpose, and rebuilding after life comes undone. They're fathers, students, leaders, and entrepreneurs, and people in transition watching tonight who need to know that a setback does not have to be the final sentence. If you have ever wondered how to rise after unraveling, I need you to lean in tonight. Lean in. Let's bring them out. We got Dr. Toby Brooks coming out to the stage. Come on, big homie. What up?
Hey, thanks for having me, Murph. This is awesome. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Yo, my dude is just too cool, man. He got the background. Oh, gee. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, let's dive in. I'm really excited. I took some time. I've had some travels, summer, kids out of school. So having you on is the honor, brother. Tell the people, how are we connected? How do we connect?
Yeah, so I had you on my show and was blown away by your story. Just so many aspects of what you have been through and overcome and rebuilt and, you know, big pivots and success. And let's be honest. I mean, we all have failure in our paths.
Sure.
And that was, it was evident that you didn't let that failure be final. And it was just a setup for a comeback. And so I really appreciated having you on. And I really, really sincerely appreciate the chance to return the favor.
Oh man, love it. Look, listen, let me tell you something. I've been on a lot of podcasts. I got Tim in the back. He know. Dr. Brooks, my man Toby, after our show, I get this mail, and I'm like kind of bad with mail. Like my mail kind of sits there, and then I'm like a mail clerk. I'll go through, 2 weeks worth of mail, which is horrible, y'all. I need a mail handler at the house. But I get this package, and I ain't open. It's like this box. What the hell is this? I open this thing. Let me tell you. Listen, this dude is too cool. He sends this frame joint, Becoming UnDone, Mr. Motivator. No, I said, I got to step my game up. My thought is not good enough. So listen, I haven't responded, but I was like just waiting for us to connect so I could do it live and just give you flowers for super thoughtful, man. I deeply appreciate it. That joint, like it hangs up. They coming up. That's one of my dopest podcasts I've been on. That's my G. So I'm always talking about you. So thank you, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you're far too kind.
Yo, so listen, how did you even get into this podcast? Like, what made you start it?
Well, you can probably relate. Every podcaster I talked to started, 2 or 3 years after they had the idea. And it just kind of sits there and it marinates and it kind of festers. And eventually the fear of not being perfect was overcome by the desire to start. And I think that's a critical thing for a lot of people when they're looking at pivots, when life isn't maybe shaking out the way they thought, the career isn't what they wanted, or maybe even the major isn't what they were after. At some point, you have to just be honest with yourself and realize, like, it's better to move imperfectly forward than to be perfect and stand still.
Bar. Let me tell you, you so right. Tim will tell you, I don't even think I wanted to do it, but we said we got to do something with long content. And I think Tim was my first guest. And I was just like, damn, we got to keep doing this thing. And because I'm a recovering perfectionist, y'all. So I'm like, but we don't got all the things and this. And we just started. And I tell people, start where you are, start with what you got. And, we're a year in now, I think this month or next month. And it's got, we took a step back. So what can we change? So we have a few iterations now. And now we got this well-oiled machine. So you are spot on with that. I'm encourage everybody, just start. Speaking of starting, I'm gonna dive in. I just want to just celebrate you and help promote you. Talk to us about, you got a book coming out, Becoming UnDone. Talk to us about it. Sell it. Give it to me.
Yeah. So the show's been going for about 3 years now, and yesterday actually was the highest ranking I've had. So number 4 on Apple for self-improvement and education, and number 109 in all categories. And there's 4 million podcasts. So super blessed, thankful. I had somebody from your stomping grounds. He played on both coasts, but I had Daryl Strawberry on the show, and just kind of massive response to that. So it was tremendous. So the show allowed me to have conversations with people like that I never would have otherwise. I've worked in sports for a long time, and that's kind of where it started. I was teaching during COVID. We were remote learning, and my students were just bored to tears with Zoom lessons. So I convened a panel of former athletes, and it was a mental health athletic training course. And I just wanted to talk about the transition out of sports. I wanted to bring high-level college and former professional athletes, and I wanted them to talk to my athletic training students about what it was like for them psychologically to make that switch. And from that one conversation, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It was so rich. Tears were shed. People were processing emotions that they had tucked way down deep about the grief of losing that athletic identity. And so planted the show and started with 10 episodes right out of the gate that I'd recorded over a month or so. And they weren't all athletes. I had my first guest is the executive director at Hazelden Betty Ford. He was in New York City during 9/11. His office was in the
towers.
And he was taking a certification exam that day. It's the only reason he wasn't in his office when the towers were hit. And so he spiraled after that. He lost colleagues, coworkers, his addiction to drugs and alcohol kind of spiraled. And from that, he left his finance career and eventually found his way into counseling and working as an addiction recovery specialist. And so not an athlete at all, but an example of someone who had something that they never would have chosen. And that actually set the stage for accomplishments unlike anything he could have otherwise. From there, Navy SEALs, former pro athletes, Olympians, artists. I had Garfield Bright from Shy was a big get for me. I had him talking about their ascent in the music business. So, Grammy Award winning artists one year who don't have a record deal the next. And how do you deal with that? So all these stories were coming to me at a time when I was trying to process my own memoir. And I was writing this during COVID, pretty dark place myself.
Right.
And the more I wrote about myself, my wife was reading some of these chapters. She's like, I hate to tell you this, but this is not a super inspiring story. Like nobody's going to want to read this.
Voice of reason.
Because I had to process these emotions, like stuff that was failure for me. And a lot of that didn't make its way into the final copy, but I needed to have written it. So now it's really a combination. It's 3 parts. The first part kind of talks about the unraveling. The second part talks about the rebuild. And then the third part is really kind of the how-to. And it's not just my story. I think I ended up with 16 different guests who had been on the show whose stories are kind of woven into the book as well.
Wow. And when's the book coming out?
Coming out in September. Should be on Amazon. It'll be on my website, and then hopefully everywhere that I speak.
Check. Well, I'll definitely tap in when that goes live.
I'll gladly send you a copy.
Oh, listen, my man, on it, dog, on it. I'll make sure I'll be promoting that. I was my one guy. He just dropped. He was on the show too. Daniel Wade. Oh man, it was. I had it on my last trip, but I took some pictures of it and like posted. So I'll do all that type of stuff for you.
Appreciate that.
Hey, so before the degrees, professor title, the podcast, all your public work, who's Toby Brooks? When none of that title stuff's in the room.
Yeah, I'm a small town, grew up in the middle of nowhere, spot in the road. My dad was a mechanic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Learned work ethic early, and it was definitely a different era in terms of real estate. My parents had high school diplomas, and they bought a 40-acre farm and a house and barns and stuff. But that's where I grew up. I didn't really have a neighborhood to play with, so a lot of basketball, just shooting by myself. A lot of just kind of stomping around the property, that kind of thing. But from that, I learned the normal 9 to 5 was not really my calling. My dad, he worked in the coal industry, so he was a heavy equipment mechanic. And in the coal industry, lots of times you don't know if you're going to get laid off. Overtime is available. You take it. If you don't, it might not be there the next weekend, that kind of thing. So he worked routinely 70 hours a week, 7 days a week for months on end. And for better or for worse, I learned that that's what a man needs to do. And I've had to kind of unpack that. And yeah, there's some great things to that, to be a provider and to support the people that you love, but you can take that too far as well. So I really early on recognized that I might not be the fastest. I might not be the smartest. I might not be the best looking, but I can always control my work, and I can always do my best to try to outwork the other guy. And that was really what I kind of leaned into the most.
Your dad and I share something. When I was in the military, I remember my mom's told me, you gotta do something with your hands, and I was like, well, my hands, all right. So I became a heavy construction equipment mechanic. And Toby, I hated that. Let me tell you, when it's cold, the bay doors are open, you cold. When it's hot, the bay doors are open. I said, this is for the birds. And I eventually reclassed and changed over, but hard work. Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
No stranger to that. Now you talk about, and you describe yourself as a a servant leader who wants to help others discover and pursue their purpose. Where did that sense of service first begin forming for you?
Yeah. Small town, graduated with like 38 other students in my high school class. We didn't even have a football team.
Wow.
Marching band, basketball, baseball, like you played everything with all the same people. All the kids that were involved in extracurricular stuff, they all did everything. And so kind of learned early that in order to set myself apart, I wanted to serve. I wanted to be a leader. And, whether that's a team captain or section leader, all those types of things, I just always gravitated to that. Not because I wanted prestige or power or anything like that. I really felt like it was the right thing to do. And once I got into college, that kind of followed me there. And I ended up going into athletic training because I knew I didn't have a career. I loved basketball always. I knew I wasn't going to play in the NBA, but in my mind, as a healthcare provider working with athletes, maybe I had a shot.
Sure.
And when I got there, I really had trouble working basketball. Like it was hard for me to sit on a sideline or a bench and watch other people hoop. And so I had never played football and I loved it. And in the profession of athletic training, football jobs tend to be the most prestigious. They tend to pay the most. So that kind of aligned as well. So the thought was, NFL or D1 football athletic trainer. So that was what I really kind of leaned into because I wanted to help people. Like if I couldn't be the guy toting the rock or making the tackle, I wanted to be the guy helping the guy doing that.
Toby, were you a dreamer growing up, like young?
Absolutely. There's a whole chapter in the book about how I wanted to be an astronaut from the earliest days that I can recall. I'm 6'4", pushing 240, 250. That's too big to be an astronaut. I recognize that I don't like roller coasters. That's probably not a great combo for an astronaut. I think, honestly, God planted that in me so that I could impress my wife. And on that first date, when I said I wanted to be an astronaut, I think she was hooked. Like, wow, this guy really has ambition.
Right. It's not kind of random, but what's your relationship? And I deduced it, but I want my listeners to hear. What was your relationship to failure? Like, let's talk past, present.
Yeah. Terrified. So I think Carol Dweck talks about mindset. She talks about closed mindset versus fixed versus growth, rather. And I was the classic fixed mindset. Like I got into a gifted and talented program in elementary school. And yeah, it's just like she writes about it. Like I didn't want to take harder tests. I wanted to keep taking easy tests so I could do well and get patted on the head for being the smart kid.
Right.
I wanted to maybe pursue medicine, like helping people. To me meant like I could be a physician, not just a PhD, but I was terrified of organic chemistry. So I chose a path that I could probably get as close to a 4.0 as possible. So I ran from potential failure because what would that say to me and how would I deal with that loss of identity? If you're a perfectionist, then encountering something that's going to show you that you are imperfect is a real existential threat. You are not looking for ways to disprove that you've got it all together. You're looking for ways to confirm that you're that good. And so I was terrified. So that showed up in my life.
And you end up where you are now. What would you tell somebody that's say maybe 20 going into college who has a fixed mindset? Because you had to have had a shift somewhere along the line. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So I look at it a lot like March Madness, and that may sound weird, but your record only matters to the extent that you get in the tournament. As soon as you get in the tournament, you got a chance to win it all. In college, if you have aspirations of going to law school or going to medical school or just getting your undergrad degree, you really just need to get in the door. If you get accepted, that's good enough. And so I ran from what I perceived as threats academically. And I sold myself short in that process. So no one has ever, I've had to turn in transcripts, but no one has ever just outright to a person said, hey, what was your GPA in high school? What was your GPA in grad school?
Mm.
And I was so obsessed over that number, but no one cares. As long as you can get
Right.
in, that's good enough. My dissertation advisor said, you know what they call someone who wrote the worst dissertation ever that passed? Doctor. That's what they call them.
Doctor. That's funny. Yeah. They said about if you're in doctor and you average a C versus A, are both still doctors.
Yeah.
I like that. Tell me what's the I'm on my Professor Murph bag. What's one of the books that changed your life or that you would highly recommend to someone?
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah.
Atomic Habits is definitely one that I've leaned in
James
pretty
Clear.
heavily on. That's a good one. There's one I'm reading right now that has been tremendous. It's called The Examined Run, and it's about how she's a runner. She's an ultra marathoner, but really about how physical activity can cultivate virtue. And in some instances, it can actually be harmful. We always say that sports build character, and other people, Charles Barkley said they don't build character, they reveal it. If sports really built character, then all your best athletes would be, incredible human beings. And that's just not. So that's a good one. Some others. I'm definitely a fan of Brene Brown. Dare to Lead is a great one. Trying to think of some others that have really. I go back to How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that year.
Carnegie.
It's timeless. There's another one. A Greatest Salesman in the World is probably one of my all-time favorites. It's a quick read, but it's an allegory, and it really kind of points to how habit and how persistence lead to success. And there's a twist at the end that's particularly sweet if you're a believer in Christ, but that's a great one.
I like that. I was just talking about one of my homegirls was reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I'm like super big on just networking and relationship building. And I think he has another one, How to Make Yourself Unforgettable. And that's another powerful one that's kind of pairs well with that. These are good. I dropped them in the chat for those watching and listening. Some really dope book recommendations. Hey, Dr. Brooks, give me a second. We're going to tap into the 3-2-1 where we share 3 thoughts, 2 quotes, and 1 prompt for you, the listener viewer. Thought 1, achievement can build a resume, but it cannot carry the full weight of an identity. When the title changes, the deeper question becomes, who are you without the evidence you use to prove yourself? Thought 2, work ethic is an engine, but is not always a compass. Discipline can keep you moving. Truth and purpose help you decide where you're going. And number 3, people pleasing may earn applause, but truthfulness builds alignment. At some point, the comeback requires you to stop managing everyone else's expectations and start telling the truth about who you are becoming. Here's a quote. The only way out is through. You cannot rebuild by avoiding the part of the story that changed you. Quote 2, failure is not the final sentence when you still have the courage to write what comes next. I like that a lot. One of the things I always talk about when I'm dealing with my mentors or students, every day is a blank canvas. Paint the picture you want. Whatever the life you want, draw it, paint it. You are the architect, you're the designer. You have the power to just really bring whatever's in your mind to reality. One thing for the audience, write down one part of your life that you keep trying to restore exactly as it was. Then ask yourself, what if my assignment is not to rebuild the old version, but to build a truer one?
Oof.
But to build the truer one. We got an event spotlight. What's the African Festival? Saturday, October 1st. This year, it starts at noon. The Massachusetts Organization of African Descendants is bringing the Worcester African Festival to Worcester City Hall Common. This year's theme, One Diaspora, One Goal, bringing people together through African culture, food, fashion, live music, games, local vendors, and activities for the entire family. Come represent your country, your culture, and your pride. Rock your jersey, rep your flag. I'm being a building. I'm excited to share that I, Mr. Motivation, will be hitting the stage. Got a dope performance I'm curating for the people to celebrate Africa, the Caribbean, and the power of the global diaspora. So mark your calendars, bring your family, and meet us at 455 Main Street in Worcester. Learn more and register through the MOAD's official page, www.moadma.org. And you can find them on IG, Mass. What is that? Mass.org. African Descendants. I'll drop it in the show notes. All right. And that theme, One Diaspora, One Goal, is really about identity, connection, and understanding that even when our individual journeys look different, we're often moving through many of the same human experiences. Dr. Brooks, that idea of identity brings us right back to becoming undone, because when achievement gets quiet and the old version of ourselves begins to shift, the voice inside can either trap us in the setback or help us tell the truth about what comes next. So we're going to dive in a little deeper here. We're looking good on time. Dr. Brooks, when life began to come undone, what was hardest to admit to yourself about who you were, what you had to build, or what you feared you might lose?
That's a great question. I think one key is something I learned a couple of years ago. I was pursuing another degree, and I'd never taken an econ course, and they were talking about sunk cost, and I had never encountered that idea before. And I've certainly experienced the effect of sunk costs, but I didn't know what to call it. And with sunk cost, let's say you're pursuing a dream of some sort. You want to be a franchise owner for a restaurant. I'm just making this up, right?
Yep.
And you kick it off and you buy in and you start, and business doesn't hit the targets that you set. And month after month, you continue to lose money. And a year in or 3 years in or whenever, you look and you realize, I either have a chance to walk away and not lose any more, or double down and make this work. And sunk cost is that sense that if I walk away right now, everything I've done was wasted. And I think when we find ourselves in the midst of what I call a purpose storm, where we're not sure what it is we're meant to do, if you've got a 4-year degree or a master's degree or a doctorate, whatever, and you're doing the work that enabled you to do and you hate it, there's time and money invested in that. And if you want to go another direction, you can feel like that was wasted. That was sunk cost. So for me, it was being honest about what it was that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be able to serve my family and support them in a way that I felt was honorable. And I just wasn't doing that. I was the head football athletic trainer at Liberty University. I was making $36,000 a year, working 70 plus hours a week. I missed my daughter's first steps when I was on the road with the team. And I couldn't continue in that pursuit. That isn't how all those jobs are. It was a stepping stone toward something, I thought. And at the time was, if you could latch on to a coaching staff that's onward and upward and, moving to a major Division I school or to NFL or whatever, then they would take you along and you would get the pay raise and perhaps, a bigger staff so that your hours wouldn't be so bad. But you never know how long that's going to take you to get there. And, I've talked to military veterans who were much the same. Like, you don't know when that promotion's going to come, if ever. And
Right.
can you persist in that season at that rate? You don't know. And so you have to get really honest with yourself and say, yes, I'm willing to weather this storm and I'll ride this out until my opportunity comes, or I go another direction. And there's no shame in that pivot. There's also no shame in pushing through.
I got quite. So I know we gonna get to. I want to get some advice from you, but you triggered a thought. I just was talking with one of my homegirls, and one day she might say, "Hi, Murph, I need help. I want to, start a daycare." I'm like, "All right, let's think this through." Then she may call me 3 weeks later. She want to be a news reporter. I'm like, all right, let's think this through. Then she want to, be a DJ, and this my girl, so I'm gonna listen. Because regular people, I'm like, you wasting my time. You're not ready. But you said something today, because I gave her some advice, but I want to get some from you, because you said a purpose storm. Like, I know what I think she should be doing, but that's me, already built out her life plan. But what advice would you give someone like that? I'd say, not even 32 yet. I'm young.
Yeah. So I came up with the concept of a purpose storm related to a medical condition called a thyroid storm. And the endocrine system in our body is the chemical messenger system. And so if the messaging system breaks down and it goes haywire, the body itself is okay, but the communication within it is wrong. And that can lead to potentially death. It kind of crossed my mind that we can have kind of a similar situation. Like our training isn't wrong. Maybe our finances aren't where we want them. There are a lot of components to this, but if we don't know which direction to point our efforts, then we're just kind of stuck spinning. And so what I work with my coaching clients, I call it the UCVMV. UC is the ultimate concern. You start there. The ultimate concern is kind of your why. Some people would call it, your central purpose. I don't remember which author I came across, but I really love the idea of an ultimate concern. And so for me, it is to help everyone that I come into contact with discover and pursue a purpose of their own. And so if they're struggling to find it, I want you to list out, like, don't tell me how you see that concern playing out. You're giving me careers, a DJ, a business owner, an entrepreneur. Those are expressions of your ultimate concern, but they're not your ultimate concern. If your ultimate concern is to serve children and their parents, then that's going to be hard to do as a DJ. If your ultimate concern is to make the world a better place through music, then what you start to discover is a lot of great opportunities aren't aligned with that. And as such, we define those as distractions. And it's great to have a varied number of interests, but they don't all have to be our career. They don't all have to be central to our purpose. So the UC is really where we start. The VMV is values, mission, vision. And so I actually said that by vision, mission, value. So the vision is kind of taking that ultimate concern and starting to get specific about what shape that can take. The mission is how I'm going to deliver on that. That's when it gets more and more specific. So we kind of start from the top, kind of our biggest aspirations on how we want to leave the world a better place. What's our legacy going to be? And we whittle it down to what that looks like career-wise, job-wise, day in and day out. What do I need to do in order to pursue that? And then our values are just, who am I as a human being as I pursue that? Am I going to be a person that walks with integrity? Am I going to be someone who is reliable? Whatever those values are, then those should kind of color every step of that process.
Buddy.
It's heavy thought work.
Yeah, I mean, the framework, though, is digestible. I'm about to tell her, hey, watch this episode. Yo, really good. Thank you, brother. That was powerful. Eloquently stated. Um, Question for you. So you learned, and you touched on this when you talk about work ethic. You learned early that work ethic was the equalizer. When hard work was no longer enough to protect you from setback, disappointment, or misunderstood, being misunderstood. How did you learn to use discipline differently?
Yeah. I came across a quote and I simultaneously love it and hate it at the same time. It said, if hard work were all it took, the mule would own the farm. You know, if you're just the workhorse, then sometimes you get painted as just the workhorse. You know, you're the one that everyone dumps on so that they can make their life better. Hard work definitely can be an equalizer. And more than that, it can be a differentiator. It can be the thing that makes me stand out in someone's mind. But beyond that, there's more to it than just mindlessly working hard. And that was kind of what I was encountering in athletic training. I spent a lot of hours at work, a lot of time standing on a football field, watching guys, waiting for them to get hurt so that I could spring into action. And that really didn't align with what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. I even find myself that way in a college classroom now. Like, I work with grad students primarily. I like working with undergrads, but sometimes that can be really frustrating because if you've got a class full of students that don't want to be there, it's why I pursued athletic training. Those patients want to get better. They want to get back on the field or the court. When I watched observations for PT clinics, those patients didn't necessarily want to get better all the time. They just wanted the attention that treatment brought. And I recognize in myself, I love that you're Mr. Motivation. I am not. I will take a motivated person and help lead them to success. But if someone's not motivated to begin with and not willing to put in the discipline, I'm not the best person in the world to flip that switch for them. A lot of motivational speakers do things that I can't. I would say I'm a disciplined speaker. If you tell me a destination you want to get to, I'll help you reverse engineer how to get there. But if you don't have it within you, I feel like that's really not my role to plant that seed in your soul.
Right. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So two things. Today, my daughter said, Daddy, what's your, we talking about the new semester coming. She said, Daddy, what's your hope for this semester? So I scratched my noggin. I said, you know what, baby? I hope I get a class of students that want to be there. Listen, I'm in Massachusetts. School's free. It's like you get a college, you get 2 years and charge it to the game, buddy. And they just be like showing up and I'm gonna bring the energy regardless of how you show up. But like when they want to be there, oh man, it goes to exciting. Now I told them this quote: when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear. You know what I'm saying? And it's I could be in front of you talking, but if you ain't really ready to receive, it's kind of gonna like offset. But I like that. And you said I'm a disciplined speaker. Yeah. So for me, I show up and people are like, motivate me. And I'm like, well, you got this thing all wrong. Yeah. Motivation comes from within. It's not necessarily a thing I'm going to say, a song. I hope something activates, whether it's a lyric or a quote I give you or a story I tell, but it's going to be up to you to decide, I got this story from Les Brown. He said this dog was laying on the ground. It was just howling. And they said, what's wrong with the dog? He said, got a nail stuck in his side. Well, why don't he take it out? It doesn't hurt bad enough. It's gotta hurt. You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired for change to happen. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's where I come in. But it's a little bit of reverse engineering too, and then a lot of energy and all the higher. No,
I love it because you're selling them what they want so that you can give them what they need. And that's probably a wiser approach than mine, where I just say, you know what, if you don't want this, maybe I'm not your guy.
He said, maybe I'm not your guy. I'm not for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh man. Speaking, we talk about Brene Brown. So I remember, as dudes, we can relate. We don't typically like emotional and sharing feelings and let me tell you, I got introduced to this woman named Brene Brown, y'all. And y'all know if y'all listen and follow me, I always talk about Brene. I can't wait to meet her. And when Brene Brown made me believe and understand that vulnerability is a superpower. And that leads me into this next question. In the comeback season, Dr. Brooks, where does vulnerability demand more courage than achievement ever did?
Yeah. I read a great quote that said, with the exception of the military, sports is perhaps the most, let me get this right, the least amenable to vulnerability of any approach to life. Like, because we learn early in sport that to show vulnerability is to display weakness. It's something our opponent can exploit. And likewise in the military, like, you know, we're not training an army or a fighting force that our adversaries would look at and see, oh, well, they're vulnerable. Like we'll beat them. Like, you know, biblical times, that's an easy group to smite.
Right.
Vulnerability, you know, in 2026 means something vastly different than it did even a century ago. And it's it requires more bravery to be open and honest about our feelings than it does to be stoic about them and to just claim that, you know, this isn't impacting me. It's not affecting me. And so vulnerability demands that I'm taking an honest look. I'm making a true assessment. Far too often we choose masks. We try to mask our insecurities. We try to cover up where we have failed. And for what purpose? Because we don't want to appear wounded or broken or easy to overcome, you know. But the problem is, if I'm doing that with someone that cares about me, if you're my guy and we're getting together once a week or once a month for coffee, and I'm not willing to be open and honest, you're not trying to harm me. You're not going to use that against me. And particularly for men, and I hate to paint with a broad brush, but I was taught by my dad early that men don't cry. And, you know, you show your strength by stuffing those emotions as deeply as you can, not by bubbling them to the surface. I had a daughter and my eyes changed overnight. Like they release fluid at a far greater rate than they ever did before I had a daughter. And I tried to repress that as hard as I could when she was a baby. She's 22 now, getting ready to start grad school. And I'm still an emotional wreck when I get confronted with a memory or see her or my son do something wonderful. And it took me a lot of time to be okay with that. They know, like, okay, here comes dad. Like he's going to well up again, but that's okay. I think they appreciate seeing that it matters to me, because when we do try to put on that mask and do try to be stoic, then I know for myself, I've never seen my dad cry over anything I have done. And that makes me wonder, like, did it matter to him? Did he care? Was he really paying attention, or was I a bother? And so I think vulnerability is strength. And I think when we're in that season of transition, you have to be cautious. I mean, there are people that will use your vulnerability against you, but find your tribe, circle your wagons, and lean on people who are genuinely interested in your growth and your care.
On people. I'm dropping this in the chat. Yeah, listen, that was loaded. So interesting, right? So I got a daughter. It's my baby girl. I got my son. And since like I could be watching something, and if it's about, you know, anything like fatherhood, it's like I'll get choked up. I'm like, what's happening to me? Like, where did this come from? But it's like you go through this change. And I don't know if my kids ever see me cry, but my son, 2 days ago, probably, he said, "Yo, Daddy, I just want to see like tears come down your eye." I'm like, "Why, sir?" You know? But they are so, man, they take you there. Like my daughter, she asked me some questions, and you be like you've been here before, You know what I'm saying? And you can't, there's no like lying. I'm like I'm gonna give you the truth, and they make you just embrace being vulnerable. Now, for me, I grew up in the hood, and in the hood, and it's something I had to probably still working through. But and to your point, you say you share something with somebody, they weaponize it. Even
Yeah.
women, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You be like, I'm gonna share this with my little shorty, and then she weaponized it. Like, you got to man up and da da da. So you got that compounded over years, and you like in this defense mode. Like, is this safe space or not? Like, it's a thing. But
Yeah.
to your point, find your tribe. When you find the right people to surround yourself with, and like I'm in a few like was it Fathers of Kings. I'm getting the name wrong, but a group of dudes, we come together and we talk about how you showing up for your son, and you in there like stuck thinking, yo, is it aligning what I'm saying, what I'm doing? And I love those spaces because we get to be vulnerable and see each other be vulnerable. Allows you to want to share more. So thanks for sharing that, Dr. Brooks. But find your tribe, circle your wagon, and lean on people. Not
And I would even add to that,
yeah.
even if you don't have people that you feel like you can count on, you can be purposeful in doing that for yourself. There's a strategy I use with my students. I have them write themselves a letter for the end of the semester. And so first day of class, we'll sit down and I say, I want you to write future you what you're feeling today, what you hope to encourage yourself with. And then at the end of the semester, they open that letter up, and 9 times out of 10, it's not related to a grade. It's, hey, I'm proud of you. You made it through. It was hard. You wanted to quit, but you made it, and on to the next one. And whether it's journaling, whether it's things like that, letters to future self, or even just, moments of meditation, whether that's Bible study or other types of introspective moments. I've found that, I've moved a lot. And when you move, you lose your community. And if you are not planted within a community that you can trust and believe in, then even doing things for yourself can make a difference.
I like that. I have like this, I call it a communication doc, and I use it if I get a new team member, but if I get new students, a new mentee, and I've condensed it to a questionnaire I could do on a Google form. But I like the letter to yourself. What I do, my final is, and my class is a first year experience. So my final is, who were you when you started this course? What'd you learn over the course of the semester that stood out? Was it a TED Talk? Was it me? Was it a classmate? Where are you now, and what are you gonna what are the tools you're gonna take from this class and use going forward? And it's reflective, and then they have to present it, and it's super dope because they come in. I thought you was a crazy old man, and and then they start going in, and I'm like, listen, Dr. Brooks, this dude had me 4 years ago. He was connected with my class in school tangentially, if I may, but at his final, buddy did a Monopoly board. Do you hear me? And did the goal, do not pass goal, got the jail, skipped. And oh my goodness. I was just like, this is crazy.
That's awesome.
And one thing I've learned as a special ed teacher, sixth grade, sense of possibility. Scholars come in. I mean, you can't judge them. You got to get to know them, get curious. And man, when he blew my mind. So I'm gonna add this. I'm a professional thief. I'm gonna take this from you, and I'm gonna add this letter to future self, day one. Love
Appreciate
it.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
happy to give it.
That was good. Wow, this is good. We might do a part 2. But let's hang out in this father. Let's talk about it. So we got a lot of listeners and viewers in different buckets. But for fathers trying to lead a family while privately rebuilding himself, how does he stay present without pretending he has everything together? And what is one honest conversation or habit he can begin right now?
Whew. Man, that's a great question. And it's one that I still don't have fully figured out. I actually had both of my kids read and / edit my manuscript when I had the first draft done. And there's a description in there of a moment of suicidal crisis. There's, it's warts and all. It's my failures, my successes, and all points in between. And my daughter's 22, my son is 20, and that's not something I would have had them read even probably 3 years ago. When they were younger, I definitely felt an obligation to protect them from the depths of my struggles. I don't want to sugarcoat it and let them miss out on the opportunity to learn from my experience. But when they're prepubescent or teenagers, I'm not convinced that that's really the right time for me to be fully honest. I think one thing every child needs is a sense of stability, whether that's financial or relational. And if I just share, I'm going all in on Brene Brown, clarity is kindness. And I say, when I was 21 years old or 20 years old, I almost took my life. I don't know that that's something an 8-year-old needs to hear. A 20-year-old, perhaps, because they may be going through a relationship breakup and they may want to know that, Dad's been there and he's willing to hear whatever it is you want to share. My wife and I were cautious we disagreed in front of the kids. It was never, yelling or never got physical, but we felt like it was important when mom and dad disagreed. We didn't do that in the other room. We talked it through and we modeled, how adults disagree. And I know, and no disrespect to other people that do it differently, but I definitely didn't want to model negative behaviors or pathologies that they would have to unpack and undo themselves. But you also don't want to be totally fake. And they enter into a relationship thinking, well, if this person really loves me, we'll never fight because mom and dad never fought. So there's kind of a fine line there. And I feel like it is one that changes as your child moves toward adulthood.
So 2 things. I hope I remember the second. The first was because I had my kids, I'd say later in life, so not necessarily through my struggles per se, but I am honest with them. Like, I'll be saying, my daughter like just studies my face. She's like, Daddy, something's wrong. I'm like, things aren't going how I want them to go right now with business and this and that. And I'm just keeping real with it because I'm like, I don't want you to think things are just rosy. We just coasting. No, there's setbacks. This contract we was trying to get didn't come through. This, and I need them to understand how business works, how life works. So I shared that with them. And then one of the things I do, I have this book. It's like a journal, and it just talks about me and like, what'd you like in high school? What struggles when was your first kiss? And then that just prompts more things, and they just so curious, and they want to. And my kids they quiz each other like, how well do you know Daddy? I know Daddy better than you. So it's super cool that they care, right? And just being just open and transparent. The last part you said about the argument, and like my daughter, she was saying something about her friend, the mom was yelling, and she's like, "Oh, my parents don't ever yell or argue." And I'm like, we have disagreements, now we understand each other's way of processing. And, my wife want to solve a global summit like right now. I'm like, I need 3 days, boo. So we have a dynamic that works. So it's never like explosive. And, we 13 in, but that's interesting that you say that because you don't want them to now say, well, if this person loves me, my parents never did this shouldn't happen. So we may have to talk about that. I like that. I thank you for bringing that up.
Something you said there reminded me of, I wish I had done it for my daughter. She's the oldest. She's 2.5, 3 years older. But for my son, when he got to high school, I bought a journal, and baseball was his sport. And so if I could give just a piece of advice, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's whatever your kid is into, you can get into that. And what I ended up doing is I would take this with me to every game. And, if he had an at bat, I'd write down what happened. And when he pitched, okay, you struck out 2 and walked 1 and gave up a hit. So he has a handwritten journal of his entire high school athletic career. And I did it for football as well. And it ended up being like 200 pages handwritten, but it was just kind of as it came, right? It would be impossible for me to replicate that. I just don't have that memory.
Right.
But within that, like, it's not just stats. I didn't want him to think that all Dad cared about was the stats. It was reflections on what I got out of watching him play. And like, hey, you really struggled early, but I was so proud of how you persevered through that inning. You ended up getting a hit. You had 2 RBI that won the game. I'm so proud of the way you competed today. And I gave that to him as a graduation gift for high school. And he was moved to tears and said, I think he was moved. He welled up maybe a little bit, but if I had it to do over, I would have started something like that sooner. And then another like practical thing, we've got all these pictures, and I don't know if you're like me, you've got all these pictures on your phone, digital cameras and SD cards. It's so easy to organize those as you're taking them. Like once a week, just go in and drop them into a folder that are labeled with the month. And then you can give that to your child. Now, when I was a kid, my mom and dad would, if they took pictures, those hard copies are there. But if they disappear off of discs, we lose them. And now it's just a garbled mess. I've got pictures of mailing labels and a picture of my son and a picture of a car that I like. But if you just regularly curate that, it's so much easier. I did a video for both of my kids as like a montage of their childhood. And it took me so long to sort through all these unrelated pictures. And I told myself, like, if I had it to do over, I would curate that as I went, and it'd be super easy. But doing it after the fact, it's just overwhelming.
Well, you just gave us 2 gems that I'm snatching to add into my book. So my daughter is we got the Olympics in our sights for gymnastics, and we're at the things. But I'm like now, like, even I remember like back in the day, she was at one competition and she did okay, but she just was like breaking down. I said, "What you need right now?" She said, "I need to go." So I picked her up and we rolled out of there. Like to have that documented as now she getting 9s and 9.5s and she placing on podium. It's like, but remember the journey though. You know what I'm saying? So I like that a lot. And I'll be at them. Listen, I had a meet. She was at she got invited to a special camp. I think because she made regionals. So we drove. I left 6 a.m., got her there for 8, and she's there 8 to 3, and then we come back, and it's just like just sit there and just watch how she's interacting, but to be taking notes. I really like that. Toby.
The other thing about that, I'll say, my son played baseball, so I didn't have time to argue with umpires and make a fool out of myself because I was journaling. Basketball and football would probably be much the same. Like, keep Dad busy so that he doesn't embarrass anybody.
Yo, I like that. Man, yeah. It's funny. I used to go to my I taught all boys in middle school, and Jay Perk, he went to high school, and I would be at the games, and his mom would sit next to me. But see, I'm a New York dude. Like, I don't need no help. I'm talking to the refs. I'm talking to the coaches. And she's like, "Mr. Murph, sit down." I'm like, "No, I got this. Ref, you got to hear me." So I'm just going crazy. So she never sat with me no more. I think my daughter, she just be like that. Just so I'll be in there like it's tennis. But hopefully she'll let me get hyped soon. Listen, Dr. Brooks, I want to give you the final word, man. We flew through this hour. If someone remembers nothing else from this conversation, what do you need them to hold on to?
I think this book project was what I needed for me to realize that I wasn't broken. I spent a lot of years thinking that I was deficient or defective, or, that perfectionism within me was something I needed to squelch down or overcome. And it's not. Like, I'm 162 episodes deep now. And, Olympic gold medalists, Grammy Award winning artists, all people in between, people I admire, they weren't broken. The failure actually set them up for the success. So to a person, no one's ever said, man, I'm really happy that my life fell apart. But they would tell you that when my life fell apart, it gave me a chance to rebuild it better. It gave me an opportunity to sift through the wreckage. And I was heading in a direction that I probably didn't need to be heading. And this allowed me the opportunity to do things that I wouldn't have otherwise. And so I would say, that mentality is important. When you find yourself sitting in the rubble, it's okay to grieve, but you're not supposed to live there. And it when I work with injured athletes, you tore your ACL. Yeah, we're not going to get you right back onto the playing field. There's a process involved from injury to restoration. Far too often, we don't give ourselves the grace, or we don't allow ourselves the time that we really need to grieve and then to move forward. And sometimes that can be, if I've got an athlete with a torn ACL and I try to put them back too soon, I'll actually do more harm than good, and I'll delay the process. So viewing yourself not as defective, not as broken, and giving yourself permission to grieve and then build from there. That's the whole idea behind Becoming Undone. Is I realized that lots of times life rips us apart, like things we wouldn't have chosen, and it feels like we've come unraveled. And the people that are the most successful recognize that they've got a purpose left unfulfilled. They're not done yet. They're undone. So that's really what it's all about.
They're not done yet. They're undone. Man. Good people, Dr. Toby Brooks. Toby, oh, man, an honor, good brother, an honor. You stand among giants, brother. I'm just happy to be in your space. I'm going to take you off screen. Don't leave yet. I'm going to talk to you in a whole minute, all right?
Yep.
My man. All right. Oh, man. What a conversation. TikTok, you're still with me? Well, good people, man, that is a wrap, my friends. I'm super excited to be back in the fold. Stay tuned. We got some dope people to hard to follow Dr. Brooks, right? I got to go get Michael Phelps or something to tap in with me. But listen, if it's something that spoke to you, your spirit tonight, don't keep it to yourselves. Share it forward. Somebody out there needs that reminder right now. Take a moment to reflect on the 3-2-1, because one bold step forward will always beat standing still. If this conversation challenged you, subscribe to the Breakthrough Bunker. Until next time, keep building, keep believing. You already know, nothing changes if nothing changes. Stay resilient, and do remember, it's all about you. TikTok, Facebook, YouTube.
I put it on my
Hood grown, NY, Brownsville, Bed-Stuy. I done came from the lowest lows, still walk with my head high. All my life, I've been through it. Made it out, and I'm getting to it. Can't tell me I didn't do it. No passing L's, we skipping clubs. No taking L's, we getting done.